Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video we are going to be going over Genesis 9, one of the biggest Smash Ultimate tournaments we've ever had, and already the third Super Major we've had this year, which is kind of insane. We have players from Mexico, EU, Japan, NA, and a couple other regions. Like, this tournament is going to be absolutely incredible. For seeding, we have 13th is Salt1, Zomba, Cosmos, Meister. 9th is Glutony, Kameme, Sonics, and Buzz. 7th is Kurama and Riddles. 5th place is Light and T. 4th place is Leo. 3rd place is Tweak. 2nd place is Aquila. And 1st place is Spargo. So let's just get right into it. Something I also want to look at is these are all the super notable players that are going to the event, which is like, this is crazy. This was made by EAZYFREEZIE, by the way, so please, his Twitter will be in the description as always. But this is absolutely insane. From Japan, we have a bunch of amazing players. We have Aquila, Kameme, T, who have already top 8 a major this year in Umabura. We also have players like Repo and Sigma. They have a lot of potential. Gakt and Shogun are usually pretty consistent in the NA. Suniko just had a really good run at Umabura. Like, there's a bunch of people that can make runs there. Mexico, you have all the consistent ones, essentially. And you also have Ondrick, which is really good. I think Ondrick has a bunch of potential. Canada, you have all the super strong hitters. France, you have a ton of amazing players. Glutony, Natoru, Ogi, Orion, like, there's so many incredible players this tournament. And also something that's a little weird is there's like a lot of Toon Link players. Like, basically every Toon Link is here. Like, you have Suna, you have Sigma, you have Marvelous Marco, Jojo the Hobo. Like, there's a lot of very good Toon Links here. So if there's a Toon Link that's making a run, it's probably going to be at this tournament. Now, before we get into the top 16, there's a couple runs that I want to look at. And I think the person with the most potential to make an insane run is actually going to be Big D. Despite playing Ice Climbers, I usually don't bet on low tier players just because, like, well, Ice Climbers isn't quite low tier anymore, more in that mid tier range. But, like, Ice Climbers compared to the rest of the cast isn't super great, and it's hard to be consistent with them, especially when you have those bad matchups. But Big D has been impressing me a lot lately, and he has some very good matchups. Teaser is a bit of a tough one because Samus Ices isn't amazing, but he definitely can do that. Zomba, if he loses to Zomba, his bracket is better, just straight up, because once Big D gets into losers, that is where things turn up. He goes against Sen, pretty tough. He goes against Jazo, pretty tough. Those are tough matchups that he can do, though. I'd say actually Ice Climbers is decent against the Shotos. Then he gets Meister, which is a really good matchup for Ice Climbers, and Glutony, which is another really good matchup for Ice Climbers. And then he gets T, and at that point it's a little mucky, but at that point he's already overperformed his seed by 2. I think Big D could have an incredible run here, and also he's proven himself to be able to win these unbeatable matchups. Like, he definitely can beat Zomba, he definitely can beat T. Then he's going to go against Spargo, which is like Cloud Ice Climbers, which again shouldn't be winnable, and if we saw like the main stage run again, then it's probably going to be similar, but Big D is a player with a ton of potential. He's been doing absolutely incredible lately, and I think he definitely could make a run here. Another player I'm really excited to see at this tournament is going to be ESAM. He hasn't been to anything in a little bit. I think his last event was DreamHack, which granted isn't too long ago, but for like Smash terms, it's like a decent amount of time. But I'm very excited to see him here because I think he could actually make a pretty deep run. His first matchup is MK Big Boss, which is very doable. Even though MK Big Boss is incredible and just had one of his best runs, actually his best run ever last weekend, it is still Pikachu Rob. And ESAM very rarely loses the Pikachu Rob matchup, and then ESAM goes into Tweak, which is also a favorable matchup for him. The last time they played at Genesis, ESAM was able to take it. Now, granted, Tweak has leveled up massively since then, but it is still, it might be a little rough. ESAM can definitely do that. And then Cosmos as well, another matchup that ESAM can do, but that's Apollo Kage, which is a very high chance it could be because Apollo Kage is incredible. He should win that. ESAM is incredible versus Snake. And then if he gets to Light, he should be able to beat Light because, again, that is probably Fox's worst matchup. So ESAM rather in the winner's side has an incredible path to like get top 8 in a very strong fashion. On the loser's side, however, he plays Mars very early on, and ESAM's record versus Mars, if you're an ESAM fan, I wouldn't recommend looking it up, though the last time they played was incredibly close. If you had to be a betting man, you probably bet Mars there. So I think if ESAM's going to make a run, he's probably going to have to do it through winner's side, but also he has a very high chance to do it through winner's side. Like, his matchups are very good for him. Another player I want to look at is going to be Nature, specifically for his upset over Salt1, because I think that is incredibly possible just because the matchup is so good for him. Salt1, by the way, if you don't know, that is Cola, that is his old tag. I don't know if he's going by Salt1 now, if it was just like a start.gg thing, but we're going to be calling him Salt1 for this video. But that is one of Roy's worst matchups, and Nature has a very strong chance at taking that, as well as the Cloud counter pick isn't as great. Like, Pichu does very well against both those characters. Maybe we see the stake because, like, I don't know. I doubt it because the last time Salt1 actually played Snake is when his name was Salt1. Like, it has been a long time. But maybe we'll see because that is a pretty favorable matchup for Nature. But then, unfortunately, right after that, he either has to play a Snake and Shogun, which is very hard, or Siski, who has a very good record over him. Like, Siski's record over Natru is fairly dominant, and then he would have to play against Apollo Kage, which is, again, Snake. It's not a great matchup. Not impossible, of course, because Natru is, like, actually incredible, but it's going to be a little rough, but I definitely think he can get up the upset over Salt 1, so if you're a Natru fan or a Salt 1 fan, you're a little nervous, I'd keep an eye on that matchup. Now, there's a lot of really good Snakes at this tournament, but I think the two of them have the chance to make the deepest runs are MVD and Apollo Kage, just based off their bracket. Obviously, Shogun, Kronos, and any of the other Snake players could make runs, but like Kronos has to fight Leo really early on, which is like, you know, tough, and then he has to fight Siski and losers, and Shogun has to fight Siski and winners. Like, those are some pretty tough matchups, though, of course, not impossible, but I think MVD and Apollo Kage have a pretty good shot. Apollo Kage, I think it's definitely he can get the pop set over Cosmos, but then he has to go into either Tweak or ESAM, which is really, really tough, but assuming he does lose to Cosmos, then he would go into Salt 1, which is a good match for him. You know, he's beaten Salt 1 in the past, but Salt 1 definitely has good adaptation, so he may be able to figure out that matchup this time. And then he would go into Siski if he actually loses, or rather, he beats Cosmos and then he loses to ESAM or Tweak, which he probably will. So that is a little tough, but MVD has a lot of potential with his path because I think he is going to be able to get the upset over SkyJ just because it is Syndrome Snake. SkyJ is incredible and definitely can do some bad things to Snake, but I do think that still favors MVD a little bit. And then he would go into T3 Dom, which I do think he can take, even though Dom is incredible. That could be an upset, honestly, over SkyJ as well. Like, Dom is really good. And then he goes into Mutace, and Mutace is really tough. Not impossible, like Peach Snake, I don't really know how intricate that matchup is, but I would favor it for Snake probably, just because, like, Peach, like, you have to be hitting these insane combos because, like, your neutral game, you're really slow, it's hard to get in against Snake, and he could just, like, chip away at you very, very well. So let's say MVD does get it over Mutace. Then he goes into Zomba, which he has a very favorable matchup against. I think he's won the last 2 times they played. And Zomba just lost to Kronos. Now, granted, Zomba versus Snake, it isn't a free win for the Snake. I think Zomba's won like 5 times versus Apollo Kage or something crazy. Maybe he was online, but I think he has a really good record versus Apollo Kage. So Zomba definitely can make that upset. But I think MVD has a chance to make a really good run. We also haven't seen a ton of MVD lately, but we saw him at DreamHack and he looked really strong there. I think he has a ton of potential this tournament, as well as Apollo Kage, as well as Chrono Shogun, all the others. They can make runs, but if I had to bet on one Snake to make a run, it would probably be MVD. And the last player that I want to take a look at is going to be Mars. Now, Mars has one of his hardest matchups right off the gate in Klaatu. Klaatu, if you don't know, is an amazing Olimar player, so there's a very high chance that he could lose right here. But if he doesn't, and it's Genesis Mars, which is probably the reason I'm talking about this, honestly, because Genesis Mars goes a little bit too crazy. Then he goes into Chegg, which I think he can do. And then he goes into Sonics, which is very tough. Sonics has been a roll recently. That third at LMBM is super impressive. But Zero Suit is one of the few characters that can actually keep up with Sonic. Like, that's one of the characters where it's, like, actually an even matchup, which I think is something that cannot be understated. I think Mars can pull off that upset if he's playing out of his mind, as well as Kurama, like the same thing. Spargo, I think, is going to be a little bit tough for him just because he has had, at least, like, I guess they haven't played since, like, I think Smash World Tour, but it was kind of rough there, but it's not impossible. When Mars is playing very well, he looks absolutely untouchable. Like, at Lost Tech City, he was playing incredible, so I think if we see him playing to that caliber, these are all matchups that he can overcome, but it doesn't mean that he will. He could lose to Klaatu very early on. I think Mars is a player who's, like, he could either place, like, below his seed by 5 or above his seed by 5. Like, his placement is extremely volatile, and he is going to be the final run we're talking about before we get into top 16. If there's any other runs you guys want me to mention, please let me know down below. There's, like, a lot of players we didn't touch on, like Repo definitely could make a run. Kronos, even though he has a really tough bracket, could still make a run at all times because he is just that guy. Kamehameha I think is really good. Shattuck, Jackal, they have also a bunch of potential. Like, there's a bunch of players that can make amazing runs. If you want to see a specific one, please let me know down below. But now let's get on to that top 16. Now, this top 16 is one of the juiciest top 16s we've ever had in Ultimate. Of course, this was made by ICOOKIEMONSTERZ. A link to their stuff will be in the description. Again, this is just such a cool visual, way more fun to do it than just like doing it on a Google Doc as we usually do it. But this top 16 is going to be crazy. We basically have everyone here. We're missing, like, out of the current top 10, like Onin and Shutone, like, which is absolutely insane. And our first match is Spargo versus Kurama, and I do think that Spargo will probably take that. Again, Kurama's really hard to pick right now because we haven't seen him in a little bit. Where we've seen Spargo have 2 tournaments within that time where he won one of them and he got second at the other, and he beat Kurama last time they played fairly dominantly. Kurama is a player that literally can't do anything though, so that could be a little swingy, but I do think Spargo takes it. Leo should take it. He has had a very dominant record over T, and even though, like, it's been close, like, a couple times, like the one time they played at Frostbite was really close, basically every other time Leo has been pretty much in control, and I do think he takes it this time. Akala Rills it's kind of the same story. Like Riddles has been close a couple times, but the record is just so heavily skewed in Akila's favor that's really hard to bet against. But Riddles, sometimes when he's just playing well, he is just mopping people up. He's hitting all of his 0 to deaths. He's looking very clean. So it's definitely an upset that could happen, but I'd still probably pick Akila just based off their history. Now, Light Tweak, out of all the winner side brackets, this is the hardest one because even though Tweak won it the last time with that surprise Sephiroth pick, I don't know if that works again. I don't know if he can pull it off again. I imagine he would probably have to use the Diddy, even though now I do have a way more faith in the Sephiroth than I did before. Obviously, he's very polished, he's looking very clean. His Diddy is definitely his best character, and I would like to see him using it against Light if the Sephiroth doesn't work. I don't want him to stick it out the entire time, but I'm not actually sure who does take that. It is really hard to bet against Tweak right now, just considering how he has been playing, so I am going to pick him. But if there is an upset that's going to happen in the winner side of bracket, at least the projected top 8 winner side of bracket, or like this area of it, it's probably going to be Light over Tweak. Onto the losers part of top 16. Again, we're only going to be doing the actual projected seeds because we had like Big D in here at some point. We had ESAM maybe being able to make a run. But just for like, so we can highlight all the top 16 players, we're only going to be doing the ones that are seeded here. And the first matchup is Salt 1 Dabuz. And Salt 1 is very good against Dabuz. His record is pretty much perfect. Like, he is incredible versus Dabuz. It could change here, of course. Like, Dabuz is a very good player at adaptation, and he is getting better against these, like, seemingly unwinnable matchups. Like, you know, he beat Cosmos, who's a really big roadblock for him. So he could do it at this tournament for sure, but it's going to be tough. Sonic Zomba, it should go to Sonic. Sonic has just been playing absolutely incredible lately. Like, that third at Let's Make Big Moves, he's playing out of his mind. Like, he's pretty good against Rob as well, so I imagine Sonic does win that, but also Zomba has some crazy stuff. Maybe we see the Lucina come out. I doubt it, but it's not impossible. Kameme Cosmos, I do think Kameme wins that. I'm just like predicting the seeds basically, but I do think Kameme probably wins that just because he's been more consistent than Cosmos has as of late. Though I do think Cosmos' run at Let's Make Big Moves was really good, and he was giving up the game basically every set with Corrin, so he was essentially playing from a disadvantage because the Corrin was not it, but also, like, I'm so glad that he tried that. Like, I wish more players would do that because that is just, like, it's such an amazing way to train your character and just, like, actually prove it out, and now he knows. But I do think Kameme still takes that. I think he has some pretty decent Aegis experience as well. And Meister Gluttony. Meister should be able to take that just because of the matchup. Though Gluttony did beat Mia at the Scuff World Tour, those are two very different matchups, and I think Gluttony, even though he's very good at the matchup, it's just like Meister's also good against Wario, and it's really, really hard for Wario. So Meister probably takes that, but that's assuming that neither of these players have been upset by Big D, which is very possible. Also, something I didn't mention, the last time that Zomba and Sonic's played, Zomba did end up taking it at LSI, but the record is 1-1 Zomba, or rather Sonic's taking it at Glitch Regen, and then Sonic's also won at like a local, but I don't really want to count that. So it is still pretty close. I'm still going to give it to Sonic just because of his amazing Let's Make Big Moves performance, but I think that is something that I should have mentioned. And Riddles and Salt 1. Now, this is a matchup that kind of goes back and forth, and Salt 1 has shown strength in it. He did win that set at LSI, but it historically has been usually going to Riddles when he is using the Kazuya, and I do think it'll go to him this time. I think Riddles, even though he's like had a shaky last couple tournaments, which have been like a 9th at Scuffed, a 7th at LSI, I think a 9th at LSI, and then a 7th at Main Stage. I don't know about the LSI placement, but like he's still been doing very, very well. I just think he's had a couple rough performances, but I do imagine he's able to take this one over Salt 1. Light Sonics, Light is very good against Sonic. I think like the last time they played at Glitch Regen, even though it was a very close set, Light did end up taking it, so I'm going to bet on Light this one again, which feels really weird that Sonics is out in a 9th seed, but also Sonics just has like some really hard matchups for him because he has to go into Kurama, which is a tough matchup, but like again, the Kurama seeding is pretty hard, but then he has to go into Spargo, who's probably his biggest bracket demon at this point, and if he was actually able to beat Spargo, he would go into Kameme, who had beat him previously, and if he doesn't beat Spargo, or rather he doesn't beat Kurama, he would go into Light, which is just a tough match for him. So Sonic, honestly, he probably should have been a top 8 seed, but it's, again, with Kurama, it's really, really tough. Like, Kurama is definitely deserving of that top 8 seed as well as, like, you know, Gluttony, Riddles. Like, I mean, Riddles is a top 8 seed, but basically, like, there's 10 players here that should be top 8 seeds, which is, like, it just shows the level of play is so high. But that's a little tangent. I do think Light is going to take that. Kurama Kameme. This one, I have literally no idea. Now, I know Kurama has a pretty good sword. It is his secondary. I think he might have, like, tried to commit to the character at one point as well. I'm going to bet Kurama for that reason, but I have really no idea. Again, Kurama is like a kind of a dark horse right now because we haven't seen him for like a teensy-weensy little bit, which again in Smash feels like forever, and Kameme has been doing consistently better and better, so it is hard to bet against Kameme. I'm still going to bet Kurama though, just because at the last tournaments he was at, he just looked immaculate. Like, Kurama has been looking amazing. And then T and Meister, I'm going to give that one to T. He's very, very good in that matchup. Like, T is just, he's really, really strong there. Though Meister, he has been making some upsets as well. Like, Meister was able to beat Onan. Definitely impossible. Everyone seems to be getting over, like, these roadblocks. Not that Onan was really a roadblock for Meister, but it was, like, something that looked like it may be tough for him. And he was able to figure it out. Everyone in Ultimate is getting, like, so close. Level of play is very, very close right now. So I think it's definitely possible. But just based off history, I'm going to give this one to T. Okay, so T and Meister actually haven't played since Congo Saga, which is, like, over 3 years ago now. But I'm still going to keep it as T just because, like, you know, he's been doing more consistently as of late. He just has that second at Umabura Major, and he is still lifetime favorite in the matchup. So I think I'm going to give it to T, but, like, with a lot less confidence than I had. Up next is Spargo Leo, and we have not seen this set in way too long. And honestly, I ain't got no clue. Now, I do think it is still going to be the Joker, though I do think we'll see the Byleth at some point in this tournament. I still think it's going to be the Joker, and I do think that Leo is going to get it. The Joker looked really promising at Let's Make Big Moves, and don't get me wrong, Spargo has been playing incredible, but I think that's like, that was the warm-up tournament for the Joker. I think the Joker is going to do big things here. Leo, also the Genesis champ, like from last year, got second at the other one, then first at Genesis 6. He is the Genesis guy. Again, tournament placebos aren't really real, but like they kind of are, you know? So I think it is maybe a little something to consider. Maybe it's the gimme I'm using to get Leo over Spargo, because the seeding would disagree with me. Spargo is the first seed. Leo at 4th seed is crazy, by the way. Not that it's undeserved, because the people above him definitely deserve their seeds, because they've all been doing incredible, but it's just like insane that we're at that point in Ultimate. But I do think Leo is going to take it over Spargo, though like that set could be very flip-flop. And then Aquila Tweak as well. I'm not really sure. The last time they played, I believe, was Let's Make Moves Miami, and that set wasn't super close. There was signs of life from Tweak. He definitely could have taken it, but like Aquila was in firm control for a lot of the games. And I don't know if he uses Sephiroth or Diddy. I do imagine it is Diddy, even though Sephiroth is like okay in that matchup. Again, it's Steve, so like bad matchups don't really exist because you can just hit someone and kill them at 0. I do think that just Aquila takes it off of history, and even though Leo has that Genesis buff, Tweak has that Genesis curse. He has not top 8'd a Genesis once in Ultimate. I think he has 2 9th places, or I know he has 1 9th place. He's at 33rd last year, though. I think he had some medical conditions during that time, which is unfortunate. And at the first Genesis, I'm not sure, but he also underperformed there. So I think there's a pretty good chance that Aquila takes it, as well as just having the set record. But both these players won a major last weekend, a super major last weekend, or like I guess 2 weekends ago now. So this set is going to be a banger, a hot settler. It's going to be very close. I'm not sure who takes it 100%, but based off the history, I'm going to give it to Aquila. On to losers 7th, we start off with Riddles versus Light, and Light did take it the last time they played at main stage, but their set history is 3-4 in Light's favor. So I'm going to give him the win here as well. But again, Riddles is a player. If Riddles is playing on his peak, he should be able to beat Light because he just hits him with 1 point. And Riddles still has this godlike neutral that is very strong. And then he hits you once and you die. But also Light's neutral is always godlike as well. And he has this insane punish game. Light does usually take it. I'm going to bet on him this time as well. But it's not impossible that that upset happens as well. Kurama T, last time we saw this matchup, it was at LSI, and Kurama was able to take it. I don't know if we see Kazuya at a T this time, because I don't think we saw it at LSI. I think it was mainly Pac-Man, if not all Pac-Man. I don't know if he sticks with the Pac-Man. Maybe he figured something out. There's not a lot of Mario players to practice with in Japan. There is now. I believe now. It's now or no. I'll fact check that right now. Yeah, so it is now. Now, T might have practiced that matchup a little bit with him. I don't know like what their relationship is, so maybe not at all. But I do think, again, off the history, I'm going to bet Kurama, despite T having these really good performances, like recently, like he won Kyojin Dojo, he got second at Umabura. Kurama, when he is playing hot, just looks so clean, and I think he's going to come back to this tournament with that fire. He's been on the bench for a little bit. Again, I said like 30 times, but like he's probably heated up. He wants to play some good Smash, and I believe in him to get that upset over T. Next up is Spargo versus Light. Now, this is a set that I'm going to give to Spargo, but again, if Light is playing really well this tournament, he definitely can do it. He has beaten Spargo before in the past, but the last time they played, Spargo just looked so in control. Like Light usually he's able to keep his pace in the game. He's able to control it pretty well, the tempo, and that's kind of how you beat Light, is you out tempo him. Spargo was like outpacing Light basically the entire set, which is really, really hard to do, and he's one of the only players in the world that can do it. And I do think that he's probably going to take it here as well, though it is like potential for Light to be able to take that upset. And then Tweak Kurama, I am going to bet Tweak just because, like, the last time they played at Port Priority, Tweak was able to take it. He was looking very strong in that tournament, though so was Kurama. But I think Tweak has been, like, he's just been proving himself over and over again, just this super top-level threat. And while Kurama definitely can match up with him, I do think that Tweak is going to be able to take it this time. On to Losers 4th, we have a highly contentious match in Spargo versus Tweak. I have got no clue. They've been going back and forth. Tweak did take it the last 2 times, but those sets were very close. Spargo could have won it. Could have gone either way. And I'm not really sure. But because of the Genesis curse, and this is the only reason I sat here for 5 minutes and couldn't decide, I'm going to give it to Spargo. That is my only logic. You can call it bad because, you know, it is. But I have no clue who's going to win this. Both their sets have been trading back and forth. At the end of the day, whoever wins, I just want it to be an amazing set. And by the way, these two have been playing recently. It probably will be. Now, MKLeo versus Aquila. In theory, this is cut and dry. MKLeo bodied Aquila the last 2 sets they played. He should win it. But something to consider. 1. Aquila's been farming as late. He's been playing out of his mind, like incredible. Like I think he's had like Japan 24. He's won Let's Make Moves Miami. He's won. Umebura Major just last weekend. Like he's been playing out of his mind. And Aquila has some of the best tournament adaptations that I've ever seen. What I mean by that is like you take his loss versus Shutone at Scuff World Tour. You know he beat Shutone winners, lost in the loser side. At Umebura Major, he ravaged Shutone. He was looking clean. Aquila's adaptation, like, if you beat Aquila in one tournament, the chances of you beating him in the next one is so low. Like, his adaptation skills are amazing, but also, it's Leo. We're going to probably see the Byleth in this matchup, just considering how Leo's run at Let's Make Big Moves went. Like, he got partied pretty hard by, I think it was Quandale in Game 1, and he was forced to switch to the Byleth, where he did very, very well. So I still do think it is going to be Leo taking that, because, again, that set at Let's Make Big Moves did give me a lot of confidence in that Byleth-Steve matchup. He still looks very clean in that, but it's not going to be as cut and dry as I think a lot of people think. Aquila's adaptation is very good, and I wouldn't underestimate it, is what I'm trying to get at. Next up is Aquila versus Spargo, and again, even though Aquila did lose it last time they played at the Scuff World Tour, Aquila's adaptation between tournaments is unreal. I think he might be the best player in the world. That it is actually insane how much better he gets at a matchup so quickly. And I do think that he is going to be able to take it this time. But it's not impossible. Aquila, like, Cloud is still one of Steve's like only bad matchups. Like that matchup is actually pretty bad for Steve, as well as Spargo being very, very good at it. But maybe like unironically, we could see the Aquila Kazuya, we could see the Aquila Aegis, we could see the DK, but I doubt it. It'll probably still just be Steve, but these are all possibilities. Not that any of those are like super great counterpicks into Spargo, but I think it is something to consider. And I just think Aquila's adaptation between sets is just like, it's just too strong for me to bet against him too many times. I think it's definitely possible that Spargo is able to run away with the set super hard, you know, carry that momentum that he has from Scuffed and the last set that they played. But I think Aquila is going to be able to take it this time. And then on to the winners finals, or the grand finals rather. I'm going to bet Leo again. You know, we bet him once, we bet him twice. Leo is just so good. I think the fact that he's seated 4th at this tournament is crazy, but then again, from a results standpoint, it is correct because he hasn't been doing as well. He's had a 5th, he's had a 4th, like, other players have not missed the top 2. Like, the top 3 have not missed a top 2 in a major since, like, a really long time. All of them since Scuffed, and they've all been to multiple majors in that time, Tweak with Port Priority as well. Like, all those players have been incredibly consistent. I think the 4th seed for Leo is fine, but I do think he is going to end up taking the entire tournament. And I thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please subscribe, all that good stuff. If there's any players that you want me to go over them, please let me know down below. I'd be super down to. There's a bunch of amazing players here that we just unfortunately don't get to cover because we don't got the time. But I hope you enjoyed. These videos are really fun to make. Genesis is going to be an incredible event. Be sure to watch it. Keep a close eye because there's going to be a lot of upsets because I don't know how anyone is supposed to do well in these Genesis brackets. Like, it's going to be insane. Thank you guys for everything. Support's been absolutely unreal. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.